G'day, friends and fans. Welcome to an interview with. I'm the author, David Applegate, author of the book, The Boyhood of Cade, Book 1 of the Empire of Elves. Today with me is Jake Gustafson.
Gustafson? Yeah, close enough.
I stuffed up. Sorry.
Yeah, if you watch Grumpy Old Men, it's in the first 5 minutes.
Grumpy Old Men, yes. I've
name.
tried to pronounce it over and over again. I am just stuffing up something severe. What's it? It's now I've lost my place. What's it called again?
The book is called The Path of Resistance.
Path of Resistance. Sorry, Jake. I lost my place. Yes, The Path of Resistance, a 5th edition D&D campaign.
Yep.
Okay, Jake, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh yeah, my name is Jake, like you said, and I have been creating creatures and stories and things like that since I was a kid. And I also enjoy creating art and music.
Right. When did you realize you wanted to create this?
Well, it was when my D&D group was in a transition, and the DM could no longer host, and we had been playing an official book, and I had started to get the idea of making my overly elaborate video game idea into a book that could actually get finished.
We've all had projects we've tried to get finished. Most of us, unfortunately, do not succeed. But you're how far into this creation are you? I saw on your webpage you've made a few updates.
Okay, so the digital version is available, but there are a few grammar tweaks I want to do before I get a proof and make the print edition available. But currently, digital is available on Drive-Thru RPG.
That's good. So, we've lost my place again. Sorry, I'm just having problems. Tell me more about the Path of Resistance.
Okay, so Path of Resistance takes place in the ancient world, and it combines a lot of different legends, and but it's an ancient technology setting, and it has some things in it that are kind of non-standard. Like I do have some extra custom items. I have an appendix with custom items and things like that.
Right, it's fairly campaign driven, or characters and so forth.
Yes. So I have tried to make it so that the characters can have certain choices, but still but I give the dungeon master a route back to the main storyline. So I have a lot of pages where I say, if they want to do this, then this happens. But right. I try to provide a path back to the main plot.
So fairly open world then.
It's well, it's about as much as you can be with a campaign, as opposed to just a pure setting. Yeah, it's somewhat able to, like, the second chapter is able to be done mostly out of order, for example.
Right. That's good. Sorry.
And parts of the third chapter as well. As long as you don't do the final dungeon for that area, you're pretty much safe.
Tell us about your preparation process.
Well, I had a lot of ideas that I had. Whenever I have ideas, I collect them and I try to put them in one place for one story. So, um, but I this for this I read a lot of things about ancient world, and I did a lot of world building before I even started writing anything, even though I had the ideas for the story long before that.
Yeah, world building's fairly important. Without a framework, you've got nothing to hold up the roof, or nothing to furnish.
And also can give uh, more freedom to the gameplay because if you know where things are and who people are, you can have some freedom with how you progress.
And what are your various inspirations?
Well, I would say that it is a character-driven story, even though the that would be in regard to the allies and enemies rather than the party who are players. So there, some of the character-driven story aspect is inspired by like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, and I would say the dramatic layers of secrecy are partly inspired by Icewind Dale, which I'd love to credit because they do a great job at that.
I briefly remember Icewind Dale. That was I'm more of a Baldur's Gate fan myself. I've
Hmm.
played the first two. Unfortunately, my rig is not up to standard these days. Uh, who's your favorite writer or book?
I would have to say the Tolkien, especially the Lord of the Rings, even though I had only, as far as the books go, I only read The Hobbit and part of the Fellowship. But I watched a lot about the making of the books and how he drew upon ancient sources and fictionalized them.
Yeah, he was very wanted to represent fiction and represent what sort of world building. What they describe it as um, a new folklore, I believe.
Yes. Hmm.
And of course, he went so far as creating his own language and built the entire world before. Well, I think he built the entire world before he even penned The Hobbit.
Yes. There was yeah, the Silmarillion was a lot of the like story behind the things, and then he just used that huge work just as a backdrop, pretty much.
And what research did you do for this particular work?
I was looking at a really interesting one is called Adam's synchronological chart. It's a history of the ancient world on a like a genealogical perspective, and it's written by a relative of uh, John Adams, the founding father. Also, there's some things based on the Bible and the Book of Enoch one, and uh, the Hindi or Indian Vedas, the Sanskrit.
The Vedas, yes. Yeah. A lot of ancient religions, I know some people today think it's popular to dismiss it, but religion was um, a way of passing on history and culture. If would you
Yeah,
agree?
and they, often seem to be talking about the same beings as
Yes.
you could say are in the Bible as well.
Well, if you could go to all folklore, angels, demons, devils, dragons, elves, dwarves, and giants, almost universal. So is undead, resurrection, reincarnation. There's distinctions between demons and devils in some cultures. there's uh, more reference to an ancient evil than Satan and etc. In if you go beyond, if you go beyond the Bible, you go to the like I said, you've looked at Enoch, uh, but there's historical references as well that people talked about these that the deserts of the Middle East were actually once fertile forests that were destroyed in great battles. Although
Yeah, there's
back
many,
then
many flood legends as well.
um,
Mhm.
there's also
They seem to correlate.
flood, um, fire. There's obviously there are references and drawings to ancient flying beasts, which today people will go, "Oh yes, but they look nothing like the pterodactyl." And to that I say, well, scientists just admit they made it up. A lot of that stuff up. They don't exactly know what a lot of them look like. They've only got partial skeletons, and a lot of them now with DNA matching, they say, well, these skeletons don't belong together. They were well crafted, but there's different species. You know, they've, I think we've only
Yeah,
got I think we've only got 6 ancient skeletons that are actually they could point to and say, yeah, these are like more than 50% complete, and they're all DNA linked.
mhm.
Right now, I think colleges and universities don't want to reveal what they know because it will put an end to a lot of books. Imagine the dinosaur book industry right now.
Mhm. There seems to
But
be an emphasis on that they want to portray like a gradual progression of society and intelligence and religion, whereas you can find many ancient sources where it's fully developed, and then almost every, even most or all academic sources agree civilization basically came out of nowhere 6,000 years ago or so.
yeah, we have. Well, the thing is, when people looked back, I mean, back then, academics, religion, and science were all one institution.
Hmm.
You got your news, you got your history, you got your cultural rights, you got your education, all through religion, because all far too often every other institution wouldn't last long. It would be go bankrupt, or it would be destroyed. So I think far too many people look at modernism and go, why didn't it exist that back then? Oh, well, it's because of religion. No, because of warfare.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
there's a lot of cataclysmic things. Yeah, and the
cataclysmic events, yeah. And
flood,
I think
those
I
traditions.
bring it up because it's why we role play. We're play in past we would create plays. We would, particularly Greek tragedies. They were reproductions of what they thought happened in these ancient cataclysmic events.
Hmm.
The lies, the betrayal, the battles. Role play gives us a great creative outlet.
Hmm. Yeah, I hope that people will, think more about how these stories are meaningful today because they provide our origins, and it's not just an origin as look now I grabbed some new random identity and I could have also grabbed one off Twitter, but in the sense of this is maybe what actually happened, or something. One of these or many of these stories saying the same thing may indicate something that happened, and that these uh, spirits and whatnot are real and things like that and
Yeah.
affect us.
We just don't have an explanation or a way of presenting it to everybody that is universally accepted. So skepticism often breeds contempt. or people will just dismiss it as cope. There is a lot of cope, however, in movements, but fundamentally, um, just to look at the role playing aspect, there is very positive mental health, group interactivity, um, using of your creation, problem solving skills, conflict resolution,
Mhm.
and whether or not you want to agree with the underlying material, there is a morality tale there. It tests your morality, it tests your mettle in what will you do for victory. I think a lot of people don't understand and expect. We see it in some games. We sort of saw some games like Red Dead Redemption having some sort of morality system. But I mean, it's a universal concept, and role playing games can give us that way to challenge ourselves and exercise our imaginations that I don't think many other, what would you say, hobbies would give you.
Yeah, the I think that the in person or interaction is different, and I think that the VPTs may have a market, but like the virtual tabletops really the same aren't really the same thing. Like I the way I make the distinction is if you can turn a person off with a switch, you're not really having a relationship. You can get pretty far with that, but you got to. I mean, it's different being you know in a real situation.
And the flexibility of pencil and paper just cannot be replicated.
Yeah, the that was a big part of what I meant when I said that this a book is something I could actually finish because a lot of people like me who are interested in programming want their first game to be a huge RPG, which is an incredible task. But when you're writing, you can say, well, if I don't have time to create this town, I'll just say it's there and describe it.
Yeah, I've I've done programming. I know what it's like, and even if you are not a programmer, just imagine sitting down and trying to allocate 6,000 objects for a house that may be something 90% of players walk past. But every building is occupied, every object, the size of the database, the complexity, people just don't understand that this is why sometimes, like Bowler's Gate, thousands of people put thousands of hours of work into hundreds of locations.
Yes. Hmm.
And I remember, what was it? Took 10 years to build the Harry Potter world for the I forget the name of the game, but whereas Zelda, it's built up like that world was built up over 20 years.
Yeah.
Hyrule. People, um, people think programming's lines of code. No, 90% of video games are the graphics. That's where 90% of your work goes, into the graphics, the location, the placement. So, whereas when you're writing a book, like you said, Hyrule, it's big.
Yeah. 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 You
Just
don't even need
describe
much
it. It's just,
details you want, and you can add it just by saying what's there.
yeah. What advice would you give to a new writer?
Um, okay, well, I would say try to focus on the big ideas because I noticed with myself early on and with other people who I know, they want to they put all their ideas they like into their story. But the thing is that uh, you you will it'll become more and more complicated and then also be complicated for readers. So I would say it's important to focus on the big ideas you want to get across. And you can always save some of the all those things you like that don't fit into something like another project. And I would also say try to learn from other writers and from readers, and I learned a lot just by play testing the book. So I play tested the book because I was writing it out on paper as I was DMing, and then after that I put it all into the actual book on digital, so it's printable.
Yeah. Like to mention that with DMing, it's I did this with I did a video recently on knowing your audience, and I also did one on why I don't listen to Stephen King. And while they may seem contradictory, they're actually complementary to each other. And as a DM, you have to both know your audience and at the same time not listen to the other creators. You've got to you have a world before you. You're not going to bring. The I think one of the mistakes with Dungeons and Dragons in particular is when you try to subvert the world. Trying to recreate it, trying to twist it around. Sure, you can bring your own flavor to your NPCs. And how you interact with the players is you. But I think these days, particularly with large established settings, if you try to recreate them in a different way, it you do reach that inertia. And so product creators like yourself, how are you going to overcome that inertia?
Hmm. The the difficulty of getting a new setting, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, the difficulty of a new setting, overcoming
Yeah,
inertia.
yeah. So it does have a new setting. Uh, uh, I was, yeah, the setting was difficult, I would say, but what I did was like I kind of picked the general time when I want to take place and the general place, and what was very important was how the you know towns that you visit are. So like theoretically, in my setting, there could be hundreds of cities, but the ones that are in the story are the ones that are part of the story. So for creating a setting that mattered, it matters almost more what is happening in the city than where it is. Like I don't necessarily need to be in like Baldur's Gate to have some similar event happen. I just need this person to do that, or this secret to be or this secret plan to be taking effect, things like that. So I'm basically designing the using the world to tell a story.
And you're giving, so it's a framework.
Yeah. And the framework changed along with the story. So there were you know you can kind of build world from starting from someone else's setting and kind of use a lot of the things that you think would happen. But since I was creating a very specific story, and it seemed to be actually easier for me to just say, here's this continent, here are the cities, and this is what's going on in this and this and this and this place, and things like that.
And of course, a lot of people, one of the reasons I think a lot of people don't complete their projects is stress.
Hmm.
How do you deal with stress?
Well, I I used to not be very good at dealing with stress, but for me, going back to college really helped me. Also, I did some teaching. I taught some computer classes. So when when you have other people to depend on you or thinking about you, that really helps because then you you can think of that hope or light at the end of the tunnel, and just try to put a little bit into it uh, when you have time, when it's healthy, and also take breaks and days off, just like it's healthy to do at a job. And when you take the time to reflect on the project or everything in general, then it can help you narrow down what's really necessary to work on as well.
Use it as a grinding stone. Sharpen your tools.
So even just like cleaning up my work area can sometimes help me with stress. Like
I,
give me time to get off of the computer and just and also make make me feel less crowded and all that good stuff.
Great. What do you do when you're not writing?
Well, I like to play video games like Final Fantasy and Minecraft and Mind Test, which is an open source clone of Minecraft essentially, but it's on engines, so a lot of things are different. And I also like to mod games, including that and sometimes other games.
Oh,
I like to watch movies that are good for conversation with my friends.
modding. There's a lot of tools out there, and there's a lot of games now where developers are actually looking at releasing their internals. Their internal editors.
Hmm.
Um, I
Hmm.
never really got into modding. I had well, I had used the Doom editor, loading graphics in the Doom and doing creating using the Doom editor, um, try and create a more nightmarish Doom that was
Hmm.
fun, but
Yeah, you go.
a lot
Okay.
of work goes into those graphics. There's because they're animations, so
Hmm.
not just one graphic. Animating was not, and graphics wasn't something I was quite good for. Now, other than your links, you mentioned you're on Drive Through RPG.
Yes. Hmm. Yeah, my website is is.com links to it, but you can also look up the Path of Resistance on Drive Through RPG.
I'll update the descriptions to mention that. The links are in the description below. Anything you'd like to say before we go?
Well, yeah, I should mention that I am currently playtesting as I'm converting this book to Pathfinder Second Edition. To have a Pathfinder Second Edition version of it is something I committed to doing during a licensing issues, even though that's improved with Fifth Edition Dungeons and Dragons now. And also, I'm planning on starting a sequel, playtesting a sequel that's mostly just an outline right now.
Now, there has been a lot of controversy about the changes to the product done by Hasbro, plus with the official death of the alternate D&D, or as they wanted to call themselves, the original D&D. Even though they're not exactly the original creators, they are the inheritors of the original product. Um, I suppose Pathfinder, would be the next best alternative right now for anybody who plays D&D because it is a derived product, direct, very little changes. It's more of a setting than it is a standalone RPG.
Well, it's very similar to Dungeons and Dragons 3.5.
Yeah,
Uh,
which I
um, and the second edition simplified some things, not
yeah
quite as far as 5e D&D, but some things.
I think 3.5 was most popular, but with the further simplification and the incorporation of what would be considered the best of 3.5 and 4. 5 isn't like how can we make the product different? I think 5 is finally, geez, how can we take the best of the past and basically overcome the mistakes of 4? Now, I know it's controversial, but I do support the idea that you can have a good orc. You know, they introduced the idea that you could have a good drow. You know, they introduced an entire religion of good. You know, that you can't. And I also believe the concept that, well, an evil civilization would just consume itself. You know, but you do need conflict. But there are just ways that you could do it without being more nuanced. You know, rather than just men with black hats running around the battlefield.
Well, yeah, it really depends on what you're trying to say through the story. Because I mean, if you just look at a work as a purely fictional thing, then it's could just represent the um, you know, the evil or either evil group or something. But it's not like I don't think that ever intended to be literally like a race. Like,
no, it was meant to be a manifestation originally. But the thing is, orcs are actually based on the followers of Orcus, who were encountered by the Roman Empire in their march north. They were the mountain men of Western Austria. They were brown Europeans with dark hair, sort of slightly fanatical about animals. Apparently, each tribe would worship different animal tokens, and they had a forebodance, a guess that each tribe couldn't kill a certain particular type of animal. They had to take care of it. But the Romans, for whatever reason, deemed them evil, and that culture or that mentality trickled down. And
yeah, I understand.
you know,
like the origin of the word could be based on something was incorrect. Yeah.
Yeah,
but I think that a lot of the stuff in D is based on like the Lord of the Rings type of stuff.
Yeah. I think, if you go to Lord of the Rings, it's more the orcs are a creation, not a race. They're a creation. They were made from clay and animated using malice. Thank you for coming. It's been great talking to you. I will update the description as soon as I can, because as soon as I finish this, it will process the video, recompress it or whatever it does, because the live stream video takes up more space than the final product. You know, again, thank you for coming, Jake. Good luck with the Path of Resistance.
Okay, thanks, David.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for watching. Please like, share, subscribe to support the channel. Check out my links in the description below, and check out Jake's description and Jake's links in the description below. Bye for now.